Hello everyone, Kier here, and welcome to the InfiNOT podcast. I'm focused on the casual nature of the game, and each week I discuss the new patch, the new card, and my feelings on the game. Let's hop into it. So this week is pretty big. We have Peni Parker releasing and a new OTA update, which is very, very interesting. It's the last OTA update we're going to get for this year, which is pretty insane. But before we get to that, we have Peni Parker. Peni Parker is a 2/3 that says on reveal, add SPDR to your hand. When this is merged, you get +1 energy next turn. And you'll note that the spider, or SPDR, is a 3/3 that says on reveal, merge with one of your cards here. You can move that card next turn. There's a lot of moving pieces to this, right? So Peni Parker herself gains +1 energy when she merges. And note, that isn't just limited to the card that she generates, right? So cards like Agony and Hulkbuster also allow her to give you energy. You would think that there would be a lot of synergy with that, but the most that I've seen is including Agony in your deck as like a little bit of a bonus. Spider, or SPDR, on the other hand, it's like a Hulkbuster that costs 1 more and allows your card to move next turn. I don't know how to describe this card. It feels like to me it was made for Wiccan decks, right? Something that generates a 3 cost from a 2 cost, that has a little bit of flexibility, that has a little bit of trickiness with the ability to give yourself 5 energy on turn 4. So your first inclination would probably be there. I've also seen some people say that she might be good in a Phoenix Force deck, or maybe even just plain move as a nice little bonus for your cards like Dagger. Being able to throw Spider onto your Dagger and then having it move itself is pretty valuable. That being said, I'm not too sure where this card is going to fit. It feels like it's in a weird spot where if I wanted to fill my curve better, I would probably just play Hawkeye Kate Bishop, right? That gives me a little bit more flexibility. I have a feeling that this is just an okay card. Like I'm not so sure that this is gonna like completely take over the meta. I think it's being played in some pretty good decks, but it's not like the reason those decks are winning. It feels like a glue card. And we've sort of talked about that in the past. I feel like if you already have Hawkeye Kate Bishop, Peni Parker doesn't fill that role for me, but I don't know. Maybe I'm missing on this card, or maybe it's just good enough, and that's all that matters. I would be interested to see if Spider makes more of an impact, because that feels like it should be really good. Like, imagine having having like a Devil Dinosaur, and you just... Or no, I guess that wouldn't work, because you would need the Spider to go onto a card that you played earlier in the game. Because you can't... If it's such a high cost that you would pretty much have to play it on a 4 cost. So things like Scarlet Spider come to mind. But at that point, Hulkbuster would be better. So I don't know. I'm talking myself in circles. This card has a lot of potential, especially with the ramp. I do think that there's a place for that. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this card, and I'm okay admitting that. I'll be excited to see where she goes in the future, though. Now for the very juicy stuff, the OTA balance update. Starting with Arishem. Arishem used to say, at the start of the game, +1 max energy, shuffle 15 random cards into your deck. Now it says, game start, shuffle 12 new cards into your deck. On turn 3, get +1 max energy. So there's a couple of pieces to this, right? First of all, we're seeing a new keyword, game start, which is a much easier way to get that across than at the start of the game. There's a couple of cards that do that, right? Like Thanos and High Evolutionary, these sorts of cards. The other pieces here, like the fact that it's now back down to 12, so it's doubling your deck instead of doing a little more. And the biggest piece here that's changed, the absolutely massive thing, is that now on turn 3, you get +1 max energy. The reason this is big, and I think they have a pretty good idea here, is now the most annoying things to deal with aren't as annoying to deal with. Like turn 1 Loki, turn 2 Wave. These sorts of plays that like really suck to deal with. Although I think it's still going to be strong. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I think Arishem is still going to be a huge piece of this game. I would just hope that this tempers down the annoyance I have, and some other people have, playing against Arishem. This feels more fair to me. It feels like a ramp card instead of just a better deck than you're currently playing most of the time. So I like this change. I don't know exactly how it's going to impact the game, but I think it's a good direction to start going in. Next up is Typhoid Mary. Her ongoing used to say, your other cards here have -1 power. And now it says your other cards here have -2 power. Man, I don't like this. I expressed how awesome it was to me that Typhoid Mary was just like a pretty okay card. Like they made her pretty playable. This to me just feels like a sideways nerf to the Surtur deck that was playing her, in the instances where you don't draw Luke Cage. Now, in the decks you're playing Typhoid Mary, there's a pretty good chance you're running Luke Cage, so maybe this isn't as bad. But, like, come on, man. This makes her a 4/2 in a full lane. Am I doing that math right? 2, 4, 6. No, it makes her a 4/4 in a lane, which is still bad. There's so much wrong with this, but I guess it's just a way to make the card feel more fair. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this. I would be more interested in this card had they not done this, but oh well. It is what it is. Alioth is next, and the change here is just going from 6'10 to 6'9. It feels way less meaty to me. And maybe it's just because I lean on Alioth a lot for my good cards lists, just because it's a card that could really help you against combos or against like huge turn 6 plays. But again, I think this is just a nerf to the Surtur strategy, which is, man, why does Surtur have this like black hole that keeps consuming these good cards? Like, It's a bummer to me. I understand why they're doing it. It's just a bummer to me. I wish it didn't have to be the case. I'm sure some people aren't going to be mad about this, by the way. Like, Alioth probably still wins you a ton of games, but these numbers do matter. The win rate will go down just because it's a smaller number. On the flip side, Enchantress is going from 4/5 to 4/6, and this feels like where she should be. Her effect is symmetrical, so, like, you have to plan for her. She doesn't need to be bigger for that reason, right? Like, it's very powerful to shut down somebody else's effect, but at the same time, like, it's both a good and bad effect, depending on the deck that you're playing. I think 4/6 feels right to me. It feels just beefy enough that, like, in a deck you might consider her over just a power card, like Crossbones or something. So I like this change. I think it's pretty fair given her low play rate. Black Widow is getting another nerf, apparently, to a 3/3 from a 3/4. She was recently changed to an activate. I don't think that she needed it, but I don't know. Maybe they're still seeing something that's broken? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is going to revert, this is going to take down her win rate, certainly. I mean, every power point matters. It's weird to me. Like, I feel like she already has a lot of restrictions that make her tough to put into a deck. I don't know, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not seeing. Frigga is going from a 3/3 to a 3/4, and I like this. I feel like her effect is hard to play around in a similar vein to how I feel with Peni Parker and Spider, right? Like, you have to play cheaper cards before you play Frigga to even get the value. Like, copying a Devil Dinosaur isn't really possible because you play the Devil Dinosaur on 5. You can't then use turn 6 to copy it, right? You need cheaper cards to play. So now when you copy something like Hydra Bob, when you add up all the energy and cost to it, you get what is like a 5/10, which isn't great. It is not amazing, mind you, but it's not bad, right? Her floor isn't terrible. It's acceptable. I think that's okay. I also think that there's value into having, more impactful cards being copied, maybe for their effects and not just for their power. But even considering, if you copy a Hydra Bob, you're getting what is essentially a 5/10, right? Because you played the Hydra Bob, that's 1. You played Frigga, that's 3. And you played Hydra Bob again, that's 1. That's the total energy. So I don't mind this at all. I think that this makes her it makes her feel better in the decks that you're playing her. Next up is Shuri. And I'm so confused about this change. She's going from a 4/1 to a 4/3. Now, there's something to be said about the idea that, like, again, this is like raising the floor of the card. But that's not why you're playing Shuri, right? You're playing her to do something insane, to get a card up to a number that it's not supposed to be. I just don't feel like this is helpful. But at the same time, I don't know what other kind of buff they could give this card. So, yeah. I mean, undoubtedly, this is going to improve the win rate. It's just going to make the lane bigger. So I don't know exactly what I'm complaining about. It just feels like a weird buff to me. But we'll see how it shakes out. Maybe Shuri decks can come back. I wouldn't mind that. Lockjaw is going from a 4/4 to a 4/5. I gotta be honest, I thought that he was already a 4/5. Maybe I'm thinking of another version of this card or something. But yeah, I mean, this makes sense. Lockjaw has been sort of wavering in its popularity, and even after they reverted the nerfs, it's still not finding a home yet. And I think it's just because the game has changed, or maybe because the 4 cost is just expensive. That's typically when you're trying to set up your end game with those big cards. So yeah, we'll see if this improves anything. Stormbreaker, on the other hand, is going from a 0/1 to a 0/3, and if you need reminded, Stormbreaker is the hammer that Beta Ray Bill puts into your deck, right? So this is really interesting to me, right? It's a way to buff Beta Ray Bill without actually increasing his power. It's spreading it out on the board. And now, if you copy Stormbreaker with Frigga, it feels even better, right? You're getting so much more stats. It's not a bad change. I like it. Yeah. No notes. This is a good change. Next up, and quite possibly one of the most impactful changes, is Cerebro, going from a 3/0 to a 2/0. This is nuts. I mean, now you can play Cerebro Mystique on 5 instead of 6, or you can play Cerebro with other 2 costs. Like, you could go Cerebro Sentinel US Agent, right? Like, on turn 6, that is a huge spread of power when you think about it. This is really cool, and I don't think this is going to make Cerebro meta. I just think it makes the deck better. It makes it feel better. So yeah, this is great. I really like it. I hope that this makes the deck more popular too, because I think that archetype has flaws in it that make it beatable, but still exciting to play. So yeah, really cool. Like this change. 10 out of 10. The last change that we have here is for Elsa Bloodstone, and she's going from a 3/3 to a 3/4. Elsa has made me think a lot about the game, especially with this change. It's like, Galacta is acceptable because she's 4 cost, and you have 2 turns to execute on her power. And the reason that Elsa Bloodstone was not okay, or not acceptable, is because she used to be 2 energy. And that gave you so many more turns to try to execute on the power gain. At a 3 cost, giving +2 power when you fill the board, it just doesn't feel amazing anymore. Although, I don't know, I might come around on this card just because if you play it with Galacta, that's pretty good, right? Like, it might take a lot of setup, but if you go, on one lane, 1, 2... Elsa Bloodstone, throw Galacta in the other lane, whatever card you're putting in the first lane is going to get buffed to an insane level. But I don't know if that's enough to make, that playable or consistent. So, yeah. I'm sure this is going to help the card. It's just, you look at this in Galacta, and it's like, well, one of them is a lot easier to work with. So, yeah. We'll see where this lands. Overall, really great. I like the OTA. There's a lot of things that I enjoy. I'm not super happy about the Typhoid Mary change, and there's a couple of changes on here that don't feel that impactful to me. But overall, this is a great one to end the year with. I feel like, especially the Cerebro change is just really fun. I'm excited to see what people cook up with that, and I'm really excited to see Enchantress back. I think that she's good at a 4/6. I think that that's where she should be. So, yeah, overall, really enjoyed this patch. I'm interested to see where Peni Parker goes. Again, I'm still very iffy on the card. I ranted about it for a little while, but yeah. As a reminder, you can follow me on Blue Sky and on Threads. I post there regularly. Also, check out my YouTube channel. I just posted some pretty cool stuff there, so hopefully you get to see that. And if there's one thing you can remember, it's that I'm InfiNOT. Thanks for listening.